Zach Petrock from Disney Animation Studios.
So I'm going to start off and I'm going to give you an overview of how we work at Disney as modelers and specifically how we use ZBrush. And then Dylan, one of our awesome character artists, is going to come up and open up ZBrush, show you some models, show you how we get to the final character on the screen. As Andrew Stanton says, you want to make your first mistake as soon as possible. That's a huge idea when you're trying to create a film. Screw up as early as possible because you know you're going to screw up, and then you got a lot more time to make it better. We take these models, even when they're not the right design yet, but we quickly put a rig in them, get them over to animation, get animation's input, because you're going to be seeing these things moving. That's where they really shine, right? So why spend 3 weeks looking at a design sculpt? It doesn't make sense. But you're going to see a rough design sculpt, a rough rig that's not even the character design. So here it is, based on that design sculpt you saw coming out of ZBrush. And again, we got this over to the animation department as quick as possible. Just to start exploring the character, to see how this guy is going to move. So you're wrapping all those ideas together, you're getting input from 2D guys, from animation, from the design sculpt, and then you finally start to land on something that looks more like the Ralph we know, and it starts to hit. And then Chad and Bill worked together and created this design sculpt. And finally, you show the director, it's like, that's the character. That's who I want to be the star of this film. And it's because he's the bad guy, right? He's mad, he's pissed off. This is Ralph. Not this guy. What am I doing here, right? So those subtle differences that all relate back to story. This is story-driven design is what makes the character work.
I really think that there's a strong correlation between drawing and working in 3D, especially when it comes to doing sculptural work in 3D. So the more that you can do of both of those things, I think they just feed into each other and make you a stronger artist. So, part of my job as a modeler is to be able to interpret these drawings and bring them into the realm of 3D and how's this going to work from all different angles, and sort of bring some of that design language that we're seeing in here, and I'll point some of that out specifically. So he eventually became this guy, which that was just through the process of iteration, just back and forth with the directors. So I'll kind of show you the differences between these guys and the thought process behind why we would start with one character that looks like this and then move towards another guy altogether. From the design drawing to working with the designer, we actually end up with the final match that or the final character that we see in the movie.
Okay, so I guess that wraps it up.
I should have seen
We're here live at SIGGRAPH 2013. We've just had a wonderful presentation by the fellows from Disney. I'm standing here with Zach Petrock. The energy was electric. Describe the sort of surrounding. And the people around.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Come to SIGGRAPH for several years now, and it's nice to see that. I think Pixologic and your booth this year really is the heart of the show. The energy here is kind of phenomenal. So
cool. Now you've just finished Wreck-It Ralph. We did this great presentation on Wreck-It Ralph and all the characters and such, and you had some really great insight on art in general, which I found really useful.
Thank you.
From the periphery I was watching in the back.
Cool.
How does that differ to some of the other projects you've worked on, and sort of how do you wrap your mind around getting into something like that?
Right. I think, for me, the biggest difference about being on Ralph and maybe more of the difference of being at Disney in general is that it's a very transparent process now where you have inside access to the entire story development process from the very beginning of story and world concept all the way through to the final music score. And to have that exposure as an artist, to be able to learn from those guys that are the absolute best in the industry has been priceless.
Your output is so diverse. You've got training materials on your website. You've got a comic book that you were doing, Attaboy.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that process and the other side of you and your personal work.
Yeah, so I have, the website right now is ZachPetrock.com, the online training website.
So one more time, that's ZachPetrock.com.
Yes, thank you. And, that's been a great experience for me. It's thanks to ZBrush in many ways. you have a tool now that lets you focus on the art. So I can have a student from another part of the world, I can grab their sculpt, do a sculpt over where I can focus on the anatomy, the gesture, right there, record it all, do the voiceover, and throw that back up onto the website so you can see those changes immediately. Before ZBrush and the tools that are inherent to ZBrush, you couldn't even think about doing that in a digital medium. So it's been really a phenomenal change. And then regarding Attaboy, again, you now have a software that you can sculpt, design, texture, light, and render a character in.
Pretty incredible.
Phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. And for me, being at Disney and trying to understand story and learn about story and creating your own unique properties, I view ZBrush as a hub to a degree where it's an asset of hub creation or hub creation for assets. So I can create something in ZBrush, I can port it out to a comic book, to an animated feature, to a visual effects feature. But the great thing about that is that right now, with all those tools that we just mentioned about taking it from concept all the way through to final render, you can create a comic book in such a short amount of time with such a small crew, and that gets your story out there. It gets your property out into the world for everyone to absorb.
What a lot of people are probably wondering is, how did you get started and how did you find the transition going from traditional art to 3D, and what sort of steps you take to overcome those hurdles?
Well, I've always tried to really put an emphasis on drawing as much as possible. I really think that drawing and modeling go hand in hand, and they feed into each other, and the stronger you are at one thing, the stronger you are at another, because you learn to design in 3D with the brain of a concept artist.
That's great advice, actually, and we're very fortunate to have you here. So, and you got started using ZBrush when and how? How did you come across this software?
I got started using ZBrush right after ZBrush 2 came out in college, and at the time there was no classes for it. So it was just a lot of late night poking around and learning things that way. But I knew that was like definitely a direction I wanted to go.
So let's just divide this up. So it's nice and clean. Go to level 1. I think we have UVs, but we can kill it. Elite UVs. It gives me a chance, because I actually said I was going to cover this, so I might as well cover my ground while I'm here. Don't make a liar out of it. Work on clone, usually, especially if it's subdivision. And then, honestly, this is about as easy as it gets. Enable control painting, attract from ambient occlusion. And let's unwrap this. Boom. See what we have here. Look at that. I mean, you can be anal if you want, like there's some stuff here, whatever that, but I'm telling you, I used to be crazy about unwraps, and then finally I let go of that, and like 90% of the time, unless it's a specific like a head or something I have to hit, and depending on the nature of things, this it's so fast. I don't waste any more time with it, especially with high res. I mean, low poly game stuff, obviously UVs have got to be tight in order, but for high res, especially if I'm going to bake stuff for games that I want to texture the high res, I can just do this really fast. It's awesome because UV wrapping is, I never hated it, but it's the time sink. I mean, it used to be like my movie day. I just sit on Netflix and just UAV unwrap and whatnot. So I guess I kind of lost that aspect, but as far as production sense, this makes so much sense. And you're going to unflatten that, copy, back, paste UVs. So now they're back. We'll turn the surface off for right now. Turn the noise off. That white, a little obnoxious. Like this. Alright, so I got a nice clean, here's a point to bring up too, like my workflow now I still use a lot of, I build the base of this in Polygon so I can do it fast, but I have to admit, with the ZBrush and things changing, my workflow is changing. I don't have it there down quite yet, but this year especially, and with things to come and whatnot, I want to get out of the way of doing more Polygon and do more ZBrush because it's free. I think there'll always be a little bit give or take, but as my process grows, these things are constantly changing, and I'm very open-minded to it. I don't want to be a guy stuck in the old and stuff like that. There definitely workflow changes, but there's so much potential, and I see it becoming more and more faster and more efficient.
The energy here at the booth today and some of the excitement.
Oh, it's pretty crazy, man. I mean, I didn't expect so many people to be out here, and it was interesting. It's my first time actually demoing to that side of a crowd, so I'm so used to being by myself. So I'm trying to sculpt and talk. It was really kind of awkward, but it was really cool to see so many people here. I did not expect it to be that much. So
you recently had a piece that was featured on the top row. It was a Batman Goon Mash. And that was really celebrated by a lot of people. What's it like to have that sort of pop up on there and be celebrated on the top row among the elite inside the business?
It was really awesome. I really didn't expect it. Originally, I started that project a while ago because I was right when Blur was working on it. I wanted to stay and be a part of that, but I just couldn't for other reasons. I left. So I was like, around Halloween, I was like, what a perfect time. I was going to try to do that Batman thing. I was like, what if the Goon was Batman? Kind of like, basically it's Frank Miller meets the Goon. I was like, why not? That'd be rad. I was even going to do Frankie as Robin, but I just didn't have that time. So it was really cool to post it up. I literally did not expect anybody to really go anywhere because it was kind of fast turnaround. I'm used to like demoing like stuff that I've spent time and textured and modeled. So it was really, really, and also it was personal. Like a lot of my stuff, it's always been professional, and this year I'm actually getting to do my own stuff. So having a personal piece of artwork that I came up, even though it was based on another idea, it was really, really rewarding, and the feedback was awesome.
So I know some people approached us just as we first started. Kind of another way this whole process for us started is something that we refer to as lunch crunch. So Jim came from a company called ArenaNet, and there's an artist there a lot of people know who works at DreamWorks now named Danny Williams, or Point Pusher. Big CG guy, very nice guy, and Danny basically is the one that coined the term lunch crunch. So what lunch crunch is basically you have an hour during lunch. Do you stuff your face, or do you make something cool? Do you sketch? And we were doing like I teach some classes online, and I was doing responding to some student work during lunch, and Jim was like, oh, I'll just hang out with you and work, and then we'll go grab a quick bite. I respond to my students, I do a few sculpt overs, and I come over to Jim's desk, and like in half an hour with Dynamesh, there's like Super Mario, like Mario Brother, like just hanging out. And I'm like, when did you start that? He's like, oh, I just started like right now. I was like, wait, so in 30 minutes you basically sculpted a head. And he was like, yeah, I mean, it's rough, it's a sketch, but Dynamesh and the speed of ZBrush really allows you to just sketch. Like, you can literally be sculpting in seconds. So then everyone else on the team kind of saw this, and then the next day I was like, oh, like I want to do a lunch crunch. So then it was like, all right, you're doing Mario, and I did the Goomba, like a super awkward looking little mushroom with a butt crack. And then other people started to get in on it, and Kate Calloway, one of the character artists who can't be here right now, he jumped in on it, and next thing you know, I think we were doing He-Man, Batman, and the theme that we would always do with everyone is each person got a week. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm a giant nerd. So when it was my week, I was like, oh, we're doing Batman, hands down. So I sculpted a Joker quick to kind of define the style, and then every day that week, I think it was like Monday we came in and someone started doing Killer Croc, someone started doing Mr. Freeze, and everyone did something. So literally in like 2 days we had the whole like Batman's Rogues gallery ready to go.
How do you feel about the excitement here inside the booth at SIGGRAPH 2013? There was a crowd of people clamoring for attention at the end. I had to drag these guys over here. How do you feel about it?
It was fun, man. It's always a fun experience coming out and sharing ZBrush and making some monsters.
Sam Sherrod here, hanging out. How do you feel about the experience doing it live on the floor in front of all the people? I thought you were really a masterful presenter. It was very well spoken and very well informed.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. I've done it before for other companies, and I've also done it with ZBrush at the user group meetings as well. So I have a good time. I like sharing information that we kind of hoarded in during production, and it's good to kind of get it out there so other people can put it into their pipelines and incorporate it into their work.
How do you feel about the experience of being here on the big stage at SIGGRAPH 2013 for the first time inside the big black box?
It was definitely an awesome experience just because it's cool to see that people are interested in your software, and it's also cool informing them of it.
Yeah, well, we were kind of under some heat with the environment things because just so many things needed to get done. So, anything that was sort of organic and anything we could sculpt, we tried to tackle that ourselves. And, just to help out the team, it's all about, in the end, making a better product. And, we have the skill set to step up and, take it to the next level. So being able to, make a giant statue, and Sam helped on a few things. Brian did some snake stuff, and Dustin did a few things, and everyone kind of did some stuff here and there.
Some of our bosses are literally the size of environments. With the Titans and the last boss in particular, Kratos himself is the size of his pupil. So it's really just about working in a large scale. We're doing the same thing, but we're kind of like leveraging some of the tiling techniques that we'd use in an environment and applying that to character.
Most important in articulation is a full range of motion. So if I make a joint, if I make an elbow joint, I don't just want it to move 5 degrees. I want to have as much playability as possible, because despite these products tend to serve different ends of the spectrum in the market. Straight collectors that are just going to put them on their shelves, but then also kids who want to play with them like action figures. So there's 3 main types of joints that I'm concerned with. This is a ball joint. This is typically the kind of joint that's used on a shoulder or even a hip joint. It has to have a range of motion, the radial range of motion. This is a hinge joint. So basically the knee just needs to be able to bend back and forth. So that's done very simply with a cylinder. And then on the end there, that ankle joint's a swivel joint. Basically the model just needs to be able to pivot in a 360-degree radius. When the model's complete, this is how many parts that action figure actually has. It's engineered, it's pretty sophisticated, because not only do the parts have to work together as an ensemble, but individually they have to be engineered to very specific tolerances. So when you print it, these things can actually move and they don't seize up. And it's something that simply comes with experience. Traditional sculpting is a key advantage, though, to making this kind of work. All of the skill sets that I developed as a traditional sculptor are what inform my ability to do this kind of thing in ZBrush. So you can see when I talk about design integration, you see, the green line represents the overall silhouette of the model, but as you can see, all these different types of joints are fully integrated into the model. There's a ball joint. There's a hinge joint there, a swivel joint, another hinge joint. In the crotch area, that's called a T-joint, which is basically like a reverse swivel joint, where instead of the central member moving, the 2 legs swivel on the end.
Just on the foothills of a very, very stellar performance by our friend and colleague Joe Mena. Joe Mena, how do you feel about the energy here at the booth at SIGGRAPH 2013?
It's great. I've been coming to SIGGRAPH for many years, and be able to participate at this level is an honor. So it was pretty intense. I was nervous, but I think the crowd enjoyed it.
I think it was a really interactive session. There was a lot of questions dealing specifically with action figures and action figures for rapid prototyping and production.
But also, man, for me, man, Jack Kirby and Neil Adams are Michelangelo and Leonardo to me. It was just a way for me to bring it all home to my roots.
Epic Games. Introducing you.
Thanks everybody for coming out today. It really feels like standing on the shoulders of giants, coming past the presentations that have already been given. Just bonkers information. It's very cool. Okay, my name is Wyeth Johnson. I'm an art director at Epic Games. I'm here with Kevin Lanning, who's character art lead at Epic, and Mike Kime and Mark Morgan, who are both senior character artists at Epic. We're the guys who make Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine 4, you may have seen our most recent GDC real-time Infiltrator demo that just came out this year. And Epic itself is responsible for a lot of kind of popular game franchises that you might be familiar with in this day and age. Games like Unreal, Unreal Tournament, Gears of War, Infinity Blade, and so on. So when you look at this image here, this represents all the way back from maybe like 2004 territory. These are the projects that have involved ZBrush at Epic. And there's been more tangential projects as well, but these are the main core that have we've started using ZBrush in our pipeline.
So back in 2004, we introduced ZBrush into our pipeline, working on Gears of War 1. One of the first characters that we dabbled with on this for this application was Marcus Phoenix. This is a concept done by James Hawkins. And the first initial test was primarily organics. Here's a couple turntables of some Gears of War 2 models. This is the Kansas. He done this thing out in like 2 weeks. Just the amount of detail he was able to cram in that amount of time was definitely due to the applications like ZBrush.
Push back in there. So even if it's not connected together, I will go across with things like this. Okay, I'm getting a little more confident now. I'm liking the relationships and the shapes here a little bit better. So I'm using a little more trim dynamic, a little more pinch, and yeah, a little more flatten. So basically I'm utilizing a dynamic sphere here and actually using a lot of the same tools that Mike had used. Move, clay polish, trim dynamic. So
I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to basically do the same process. I'm going to duplicate this to be a substrate on which to put the curves down. I want to leave you guys with our demonstration of UV4 technology for 2DC that we did. So
We're here with Kevin. Kevin, how do you describe the experience of being here live on the floor and seeing all the people waiting and clamoring around the booth?
It's awesome, man. It's humbling as always. The amount of talent around this place is just incredible.
Fantastic. And Mike, how do you feel about the experience of coming all this way and being here on the floor with the people?
It was awesome. It was great to have you guys to have us out and to be able to show stuff and get to meet everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the best things is just off to the side, you just meet all these really awesome people from Pixologic and people in the industry. It's great.
So how do you describe the experience of being here live on the floor at SIGGRAPH 2013 in Anaheim, California?
It's awesome. I mean, we're hobos who spend our days like locked behind a computer. So we don't really get out and talk much, but it's just awesome just to be out here and see like some of the other guys that we look up to say the same thing up to us. It's just a humbling experience. It's something that lets you know exactly what kind of artist that ZBrush attracts.
Yeah. So describe your experience here today with the action at the booth and the people and just sort of the energy surrounding being here with all of your sort of peers and contemporaries at this point.
Look, I said it in my talk that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. When we come up here and we present with Pixologic, it reinforces our relationship with you guys in such an amazing way. Epic and Pixologic just bound at the hip. And every single person who's presenting here today is insane. They're at the absolute top of their industry. I learned more in 4 hours than I have in the last month just researching online or whatever. The amount of communication, the amount of respect that we have for our brothers is amazing. So I can't overstate how happy we are to be here. It's been in fact fantastic.
Okay, Michael, and yourself, how'd you get started using ZBrush?
So coming at the end of college, I was basically a game guy and doing low poly, but then everybody started showing all these like awesome like dinosaurs and creatures that you could do really high poly with ZBrush.
I remember back in 2000, it was my first SIGGRAPH, and I saw you guys presenting there. So that was my first introduction there, and then obviously when you came out with ZBrush 2, I think, or 2 or 3, yeah, man, we just picked it up and haven't let go of it. Awesome. So detailing out stuff, just having fun sculpting.
How did you get started becoming the Fusion?
Well, so I'll answer it or I'll address it in a different way, which is that nobody goes back from ZBrush. It doesn't really matter when you got introduced to it. It doesn't really matter that, oh yeah, I picked it up the first release or I only started picking it up yesterday. Yeah. Once you integrate it, you don't go back from it. You realize that it's faster, you realize it's more efficient, you realize it's better, you realize it's an expression of artistic freedom a little bit more explicitly than some of the other tools that we're used to using, particularly for real-time games. So who cares when you pick it up? Just, you're not going to let it go, right?
That's a great way to put that. Who cares when you pick it up? Just don't let it go.